Barely, like I made it with this much time left. Hey Explorers, Kitty Explorer here, and it is time for another episode of Travel Chat Thursday. Today, we're going to actually talk about and share stories on close calls, missed flights at the airport. So I'm going to tell you a few of my stories and then tell you what I learned from those situations. So let's get into it. But before we get into this episode of Travel Chat Thursday, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell right next to it so you're notified when all of my videos are released. Videos are released on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It's free and you'll get notified of all of my travel adventures, tips, and chats. Now let's get into today's video. Okay, I have 3 stories in relation to missed flight, close call situations. And they're not like missed flights like you missed a connecting flight, because sometimes that's out of your control. These are flights that I missed based on my control, okay? I was actually headed to Los Angeles, October 2019, and I am a dangerously late procrastinating person. So I get to the airport at the very last minute. In this situation, I left in enough time from work, and if you didn't know, I live in Atlanta, and I work, or used to work because we work from home now, but work in the Buckhead area, which is northeast Atlanta. The airport is south of Atlanta. I left and I'm driving along, things are going smooth, and then all of a sudden, pump your brakes, stop, pause, traffic time, okay? So I'm like rushing now, like I'm in panic because the freeway is on pause. So I'm taking these back roads, skirting around, and I finally get to the off airport parking, and I'm the first one to get on the shuttle. So he's like waiting to see if he sees anyone else who needs to. And I was like, excuse me, when are you gonna leave for the airport? So he sensed my urgency and we went directly to the airport. And of course, you know, Atlanta is huge. I get to the domestic terminal and my flight for some reason was with Delta, but taking off, I think, from Concourse E. Okay, so you have T, A, B, C, D, and E to get to. Long time. So I get off at Concourse E and I am like rushing, like sweat is dripping, in a panic. And I get there, they had already, like there was 10 minutes left. And I was like, are they still boarding? And they're like, yes. So they hadn't closed the boarding door, but they had given away my seat. So I still ended up with a nice seat in Comfort Plus, but I barely, like I made it with this much time left. Barely made it. That was a trip. I learned I need to stop doing that procrastinating mess. On to the next story. All right, similar situation, September 2019, I was headed to Las Vegas, but I was leaving later in the day, Saturday, and I had stuff I had to do in order to prepare for my trip. I had a chiropractor appointment. I was running a few minutes late, which usually isn't a problem, but if I didn't have a flight or did whatever, he was later because he had an appointment prior to mine and he went extremely over. And my back was killing me. I needed my chiropractic appointment ASAP, but he just kept delaying. So I got a half-ass appointment, but it was already packed up. The dog was dropped off. I had all my stuff in the car. So I left directly from my chiropractic appointment to head to the airport. So I remember getting to the gate. I had on my Atlanta United soccer jersey, and I am running, sweat dripping again to get to my gate, only to find out they were nowhere near ending the boarding. They were boarding late. I get to my gate, I'm like out of breath. Sweat is dripping down my face. It's probably coming through the jersey. And the gate attendant was like, oh, what's the score of the soccer game? Bruh, does it look like I know what the score is? Don't you see me sweating? It looks like I was playing on the field with the Atlanta United. So I need to make sure I pay attention like close to flight time to what concourse is going to be in, because being in concourse T, A, or B is a lot different than being in F, E, or D. And it can make a big difference on where you enter the airport. If you enter on domestic or international, it could be closer. You can enter for any flight on either side of the airport, and you won't have to be on the plane train as long. So I really need to start paying attention to that. And also, don't make chiropractic, doctor, dental appointments anywhere near time of departure, because they clearly don't care about your time. Okay, on to the next story. All right, the last story was when I used to live in Augusta, Georgia. And so Augusta is a very, very small town. So you only had Delta and I believe at that time it was US Airways, which I believe merged with American Airlines. But anywho, you either flew from Augusta to Atlanta or Augusta to Charlotte. But you know, I'm a Delta girl, so 9 times out of 10, I was flying from Augusta to Atlanta. Well, I was flying to Cleveland, I think for Memorial Day weekend. This was a long time ago. And I found a cheaper flight because it used to be cheaper to just drive from Augusta to Atlanta, park at the airport, and fly out. But then it started getting really expensive to do that. And it was really expensive to fly from Augusta to Atlanta to wherever. So you really have to watch your flights living there. So I found a flight out of Columbia, South Carolina, which is just an hour away from Augusta. And it connected through Atlanta and took me to Cleveland. Well, I don't know what happened when I went to sleep that night because I didn't wake up on time. I woke up literally an hour before the flight was supposed to leave. So I'm like, I'm already packed. I just need to get myself ready. And so I look at the time of departure for my connecting flight out of Atlanta, and it's slightly over 2 hours from that time. I hop in my car. I am driving down I-20 West, flying. I mean, people fly down I-20, period. It's Georgia, we drive fast. I'm flying down I-20, hoping I don't get stopped by cops. I even called Delta, and they're like, yeah, come on, you can catch the connecting flight, because, you know, sometimes they get a little funny about, you know, joining at a later flight time, your connecting flight time. But I made it to the airport, but I was stressed trying to get there. With that said, I've done it maybe once or twice after that, driven to another airport outside of my city to save money, but I typically don't like to do that after that experience, because when you miss that flight, luckily Atlanta was close, but like, what if I had to go to Miami or something? I would not have made it. So those are my 3 stories. Lessons learned here. Make sure you don't wait till the last minute to go to the airport, and then make sure you don't schedule any appointments on that day of your flight. And if you can, try to avoid, yes, I know it could be cheaper sometimes, but try to avoid having to drive to another city, especially an early morning flight. So those are my stories, and the lessons I learned from those close calls are actually missing my flights. And I want to know, because it is Travel Chat Thursday, what times have you missed a flight? What happened? Have you had any close calls? What happened, and what did you learn from those incidents? I want to know, so make sure you comment that down below in the comment box. But thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified when all of my videos are released. And lastly, make sure you share this video with your friends, family, and social media networks. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day or night wherever in the world you are.